Omar Khan does it again. The rest of the league's got to be asking, how does Khan keep getting away with it? I said we were on a generational run for last year's draft. I think we need to come up with another adjective to describe these Omar Khan draft classes. Because getting A+ grades for these drafts are becoming a commonplace. We can't be saying generational anymore. It's A+, A graded draft classes after A+ A graded draft classes. It's what is this? 3 in a row for Omar? 3 in a row. Generational is something you use to describe something that's happening once in like every 2 decades, every 20 years. We can't be using that term generational anymore. How can you say it's generational when it's something that's happening every year with these draft classes by Omar Khan? This is crazy. What word should we use to describe it then? Because generational is high praise. What's higher than that? Did we just say it's straight up excellence that Omar Khan's putting out there? Pure class? Supreme? The gold standard? Omar he's setting the standard for how GM work should be done. Now, granted, there are other great GMs around the league, but Omar, in only 3 years, have been putting on a masterclass. There's a reason they call him the con artist. These picks were insane. The value we got in every round. Doing what needed to be done in terms of getting the correct positions as well. Making this team better, not only for 2025, but for the future. We must know Aaron Rodgers is signing because we didn't address quarterback through the first 5 rounds. So let's go off that assumption. Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. Mason Rudolph's going to be the backup. We nailed it. We absolutely nailed it. We didn't have to take a quarterback early if we're getting Aaron Rodgers. And we're talking about trying to compete in 2025 and get back into Super Bowl contention status. We didn't need a quarterback. We still got a pretty damn good one in the 6th round. And Will Howard. Look at this group. 1st round, Derek Harmon. 2nd round, Caleb Johnson. Or I'm sorry, 2nd pick, Caleb Johnson. 3rd round, Caleb Johnson. Didn't have a 2nd round pick. It didn't even matter, though. Traded a 2nd round pick for DK Metcalf. Didn't have a 2nd round pick. We get basically 2nd round value in taking Caleb Johnson in the 3rd round. Caleb Johnson was graded as, by most accounts, like a top 40, 45 player in this whole class. One of the top 5 running backs, hands down. And we get him in the 3rd round at 83. Jack Sawyer, leader for the national champion Ohio State team last year on defense. We get him in the 4th. 9 sacks last year. Clutch player for their playoff run. Y.A. Black, we get in the 5th round. Add to not only the defensive lineman we select in this draft class, but add to the Steelers' overall defensive line room right there. Another big guy, 6'6", 336. Derek Harmon is 6'4", 6'4.5", 313. We didn't like how that Ravens game looked in the wild card. And we said to ourselves, we're refortified in these trenches, particularly on defense. We've been investing in the O-line these last couple drafts. We could get away with not taking a guy in this one, which we didn't. But we need to start focusing again on this defensive line. Cam Hayward's not getting any younger. And after him and Keanu Benton, the depth looks a little bleak. So Y.A. Black in the 5th round, steal. Nailed that pick. Will Howard in the 6th. My God. My God, what a pick. What a pick. Carson Bruner in the 7th. You knew we were going to do that. You knew Carson Bruner was going to be a Steeler. Dad was a former Steeler back in the day. He's a current scout for this team. The family connection, it's what we do. Seems like a decent player, though. Seems like a decent guy to get in the 7th round. It's not like we reached for him or anything. That's around the spot that he was projected to be taken, 6th, 7th. Seems like a quality player. 100 tackles at Washington last year, 3 picks. There was production. It's not like he's complete scrub. And then Dante Kent, cornerback, with our last 7th-round pick. The 7th-round pick, I believe we got one of those 2 7th-round picks we got from trading back in the 5th round a few spots. So we got an extra 7th-round pick in the process and still was able to get Y.A. Black. My God. Derek Harmon, Caleb Johnson, Jack Sawyer, Y.A. Black, Will Howard, Carson Bruner, Dante Kent. Welcome to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And shout out to Omar Khan, again, for producing an A-plus draft class. We hit on every need we needed to. We got value at every pick, at every turn here. And it's looking like we're back. We get Aaron Rodgers on this team. It's looking like we got a real chance for 2025. I'm excited. I really am. I feel like we had a plan going into this thing, and we executed it to a T. There were talks recently about us maybe taking a quarterback early because Aaron Rodgers' decision is still up in the air. He's still leaving us waiting. But obviously we know something, or the Steelers know something that the fan base and the general public doesn't, and that's Aaron Rodgers is going to sign here eventually. So we were like, we don't need quarterback like that. Let's get defensive line. Let's get running back. Let's get a 4th edge rusher in here and Jack Sawyer. Oh, let's get more defensive line in the 5th round. Let's get a developmental quarterback in Will Howard that has championship pedigree, that lived up in the biggest moments last year for the Ohio State playoff run, overcame adversity, but also still has upside. The dude's 6'4", 236, has running ability. He's got a cannon for an arm. I don't know. I don't know what there's not to like about Will Howard, especially getting him in the 6th round. I was talking about early in the offseason, like, why isn't he being talked about as potentially being a 1st-round pick? Or maybe even the 2nd round. But I think the general consensus was heading into the draft, 3rd or 4th was maybe where he was going to go. We get him in the 6th. You've got to be kidding me. So he's got a chance to potentially be the Steelers' future after Aaron Rodgers retires. But for right now, nice depth in the quarterback room. Really nice depth. Man, what a draft. What a draft. Now it's up to the players to play good on Sundays and play good throughout the course of the season, and the coaches to coach at a high clip, because we can't keep talking about us having these excellent drafts and Omar Khan killing it, and then we keep getting the same results when the season ends. So there's that too. There's definitely that. What are you guys thinking in the chat, man? I'm seeing a lot of people stopping through. Shout out. Muggsy12 says, no O-line, though. Broderick Jones cannot be trusted. I get what you're saying, but there was no way we were going to take an offensive tackle in this draft. There's no way we were going to try to take a left tackle to compete with Broderick Jones when we just took Broderick 2 years ago. What pick was it? 13th. We traded up a couple spots to get him. A top 13 pick that we drafted to be our franchise left tackle, and we still haven't got to see him at that position yet. And now with Dan Moore gone to the Titans, Broderick is going to get that opportunity. It's time to give Broderick that chance. It's time to see what he's made of. I'm with you. It's a risk. I'm with you. There's uncertainty there, but we really don't have any other option. I think it would have been stupid for us to take an offensive tackle. I think you could argue that maybe we should have got one later. Could we have got some extra depth in the 6th round? Or no, definitely not. We're not replacing the Will Howard pick. Could we have taken an offensive tackle and with one of those 7th round picks? Maybe. Yeah, Carson Bruner, potentially overkill in the linebacker room. With us having Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, we brought in Malik Harrison. We already have Mark Robinson here. Am I missing? I feel like we have another linebacker. Yeah, Cole Holcomb. That's a lot. That's a lot of inside linebackers. Carson Bruner's best chance of making this team is being a special teams ace in his rookie year, in his first few years. Maybe we could have taken an offensive lineman there for extra depth. But you're not taking an offensive lineman in the 7th round to be legitimately competing with Broderick Jones anyway. I think the way you're talking is, we should have taken an offensive lineman with our first couple picks in the 1st or the 3rd round. I think that just would have been foolish. It's time for Broderick. It's time. It's a make or break year. It is what it is. There's uncertainty, but as an organization, you got to take risks year in and year out. This isn't something specific to the Steelers. There's teams that have turnover with personnel and players, and you got to rely sometimes on a player or two stepping up. A guy that was on your depth chart doesn't have too much experience. A veteran leaves. You got to rely on that guy that was chilling on the depth chart to step up and do something. It happens. M Jones 562 still say we got to part ways with Tomlin. It's just time. Well, it's too late for that. It's too late. We gotta operate with what we got. And I'm giving Tomlin credit. I'm giving this organization credit for how we've done this offseason. Because one of the paths we could have gone down after that wild card loss is turn over the coaching staff, move on from Tomlin, start fresh. But we didn't. So once I realized we weren't getting rid of the coaching staff, we weren't moving off from Tomlin, sat back and thought to myself, how can we make it work with Tomlin and the current staff still in place? How can we still make it work with that being still the culture, that being the I guess the overarching approach still with this organization, the same people that have been leading us these last 7-8 years and still getting not good results? How can there still be a change up? Even if from the top down, the guys at the very top, it's going to be the same voice. And that is turnover with the personnel. We need new at quarterback. We need splash on defense. We need to fortify the trenches. We can't be having what took place against the Ravens in that wild card game. 300 yards on the ground. That's not Steeler football. And what have we done this offseason? We traded for DK Metcalf. We got Darius Slay in here. We got a third cornerback to play the slot, play outside. Really versatile piece in Brandon Echols, who's in his prime. Malik Harrison, a dude that could play off ball, can play edge. Really good run stopper, stolen from the Ravens. And then in the draft, we get Derek Harmon in the 1st round. We get Jack Sawyer in the 4th round. We get Will Howard in the 6th. Aaron Rodgers is going to sign here. So we have turnover at the quarterback position. We didn't run it back with Russ. I got to give Tomlin credit. I got to give the front office credit for these changes. They said exactly what I said at the end of the season, and that is what we've been doing, what our approach has been, isn't good enough. So we got to change. We got to look ourselves in the mirror, and we got to make some moves. And we did. We did. Didn't change Tomlin, didn't change the coaching staff. Like, all that's in place. But we made changes elsewhere, and I got to give credit where credit's due. At least we're trying. At least we're trying to take swings. We're not just going with this conservative approach and doing it the same old way. Now, that's the argument. Is it really going to change? Are things really going to change if you have the same messaging or the same person that's been here throughout all these failures over the last decade? It's a fair question to ask, but I got to give credit where credit is due in terms of doing what we can and trying to make change and trying to take some swings. All right, I might get back into some of this draft commentary here. Let me read another comment or two. I don't want to go through the picks, man, because we did awesome on these picks. Sorry, the chat keeps jumping on me. Someone saying, Hot Mic user says, dog, you're crazy saying we wasted the RB pick. So someone in the chat doesn't like the Caleb Johnson pick. No way, bro. He's going to be an upgrade over Najee Harris. He's a perfect scheme fit for what Arthur Smith likes to do in the run game. Look back with the Titans offense and Derrick Henry And like Caleb Johnson is just a lighter version of Derrick Henry, a little bit lesser version of Derrick Henry. I'm not saying Caleb Johnson's going to be Derrick Henry, but you could see the running styles are similar. He's not as physical as Derrick Henry, but he does have certain aspects to his game that I think are better. I think he's like smoother of a runner, a little bit more nimble on his feet, a little bit more shifty. So there's that. Both guys, though, have taken to the house ability. And that's something that's been lacking in the Steelers offense from a running game standpoint, with Najee Harris being the lead back. I think Caleb Johnson is going to be much better than Najee Harris. I think he's going to be a much better fit with this offense and our run style and our run scheme. I think the running back was a steal. T. Greek is asking me, what do you think of the running back? Absolute steal in the third round. Could easily argue that he should have been a second-round pick. He's a top 5 running back in this class. Maybe even the third best. Top 3 maybe after Genty and Hampton. I like Judkins, though. Maybe I'd say Caleb Johnson at 4. Yeah, I'd maybe put Judkins at 3, Caleb Johnson 4. The Browns got that really frustrated me. They got Judkins and they got Sampson. That pissed me off. I wasn't too thrilled about that. But great pick with Caleb Johnson. And then going back to the first rounder with Derek Harmon, that was the right pick. Looking back with how we handled this draft, it really was the right pick. I know some of us were potentially wanting Shedeur Sanders, wanting a quarterback, wanting the more splash pick. Matthew Golden was still on the board. But you can't complain about getting Derek Harmon there at 21. That was where he was projected to go. He was a top 20 player in this class, one of the top 3 interior defensive linemen. We needed to fortify these trenches. We needed to find Cam Hayward's successor, and Derek Harmon fits the bill there. He's a really versatile piece. His game's a little reminiscent of Stephon Tuitt, and we remember how whenever Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward were at their peak, what that D-line looked like. Unfortunately, we only got to see it for like a year and a half when both of those guys were at the peak of their powers, because Stephon Tuitt had some injuries, and then he dealt with losing his brother, and then he eventually retired. But, man, that interior, that defense back, it was like 2018, 2019 with Stephon Tuitt, Cam Hayward, that was lethal. So hopefully Derek Harmon can get up to speed and have that type of impact sooner rather than later, hopefully in his rookie year. But, I mean, worst case, we already have Cam Hayward and Keanu Benton. Harmon's going to be a part of like that trio rotation. So worst case, it's at least added depth for this year. If he doesn't become a star, if he doesn't develop that quickly, so be it. He's going to be able to give Keanu Benton and Cam Hayward breathers. And, I mean, the talent's there enough that he's just not going to be out there being a body. I think he's going to still be making plays for us. Like, he's going to be an appropriate replacement whenever he's called upon. Talked about Caleb Johnson, Jack Sawyer in the 4th round. And the thing about this 4th round pick with Jack Sawyer is all the quarterbacks were still there. Outside of Jalen Milroe, he went to Seattle in the 3rd round. But you still had Shedeur Sanders falling to the 4th. Kyle McCord, Quinn Ewers, Will Howard, a bunch of these quarterbacks that were linked to the Steelers, still there in the 4th. And we say, nah, we good. We're not worried about quarterback. Let's get a guy that can maybe actually help us for this upcoming season in Jack Sawyer. Now, he's not going to get 50% of the snaps. He's not going to be getting a ton of snaps out here. But as the 4th edge rusher behind TJ Watt, Alex Highsmith, and behind Nick Herbig, I could see him getting maybe 5 to 10 snaps a game. You give TJ Watt, Highsmith a breather. You got Jack Sawyer out there with this high motor. That's going to spell some trouble for defenses. 6'4", 260. And what I like about his game, too, he got better year in and year out at Ohio State. Got better every season. Because that's one of the knocks with him is like, all right, he doesn't have the highest upside, doesn't have the highest potential or athleticism or anything like that. But we saw him consistently develop at Ohio State last year, 9 sacks for the season. And you saw him make the biggest plays of last year when he was in the biggest moments in the playoffs. On that 4-game run where they had to go up against top 10 team week in and week out. Dudes making plays, strip sacks, all over the place, all over the field. So high motor, just veracity in his approach to the game. Just gets after it. Never give up mentality. So you like that about Jack Sawyer. Could help us this year, but also could potentially be like down the line as TJ Watt's getting older. You don't know what happens with Highsmith's next contract or anything like that. He could potentially be our second edge rusher. I don't think he's ever going to be your first guy, but second edge rusher, almost like Sam Hubbard with Cincinnati. A lot of people are comparing Jack Sawyer and his upside and what his ceiling could be to Sam Hubbard. And Sam Hubbard was a quality player for the Cincinnati Bengals for a good portion of his career, for probably like 5, 6, 7 years. Was getting 5, 6, 7 sacks a season. Nothing to sneeze at. Love that pick. But I think that pick really cemented the Steelers' mindset with this draft and the message they're trying to send. We're all in for 2025. We're not worried about, even though Shador's there, even though Will Howard's still there in the fourth, Quinn Ewers, some of these guys, McCord. We're not worried about taking a player we know is not going to play in 2025. Give us someone that can actually contribute, that's actually going to be getting snaps. Because we're going to try to go all in here. We know Aaron Rodgers is coming. So let's make sure we can stop the run on defense and we can put out a better defensive performance than what we did last year. Jack Sawyer, Derek Harmon, Y.A. Black helping that. The free agent moves that we made, adding Malik Harrison, helps with that. So, man, I'm excited about this squad. And Y.A. Black, not as versatile as Derek Harmon, but we don't need that after getting a Derek Harmon. Y.A. Black, he's that nose tackle. He's that defensive tackle with the size that you can't teach, and you're going to throw him out there hopefully 20, 30% of the time. I don't know necessarily in his rookie year, but you could see down the line him having certain packages on rundowns, goal line downs. You throw him out there, and he's just a big body that it's going to be tough for the offensive line to move, and it's going to wreak havoc. That's what I see with Y.A. Black. I think his upside, his potential is being like a Tyson Alualu, but he's got even more size than Tyson, I think, from what I remember off the top of my head. Dude's 6'6", 336. I don't think Tyson Alualu was that big, was he? And then Will Howard, man. In the 6th round, what a steal. Absolute steal. You guys know I've been high on Will Howard throughout this whole draft process. I'm not saying this now just because we drafted him. I questioned early on why he wasn't being considered with some of those top 4 or 5 quarterbacks in this class. What's not to like about Will Howard? Clutch, obviously displayed mental toughness last year. 6'4", 236, good size, is mobile, was somewhat of a running quarterback in a Chip Kelly scheme at Ohio State, had 7 rushing touchdowns. Can make every throw, improved his accuracy every year in college, all the way up to last year, gets up to 73%. I get he had a good team around him, but you got to work with what you got, and Will Howard made the most of what he got. Ohio State gets rid of Cal McCord. They bring in Will Howard, win a national championship. I don't think it's a coincidence. I don't. So that's a great pick in the 6th round. Like most had him realistically going in the 3rd or 4th. I think he could have even went higher. Get him in the 6th. I think he's got enough upside where he might be the future for you. Develop under Aaron Rodgers for a little bit. See how the season goes. See how things go with Rodgers. See what Will Howard's development looks like. And then maybe in a year or 2, you're giving him the keys as opposed to going back into the draft. Like, man, I still have yet to hear one bad thing about Will Howard's game. He wasn't perfect at Kansas State. It was a little bit more of a running quarterback there, but that was the Kansas State system. You see what happens what happened when he got to Ohio State. Whole new system, Chip Kelly, and he was asked to throw more, and he got better as the season went on and was at his best when the games were the biggest, the lights were the brightest. Went up against 4 top 10 teams, college football playoff, after losing to Michigan at the end of the regular season. Like, come on, man. That's a lot of pressure, and he delivered every step along the way. Wasn't he graded as from PFF like perfectly or something in those 4 playoff games? Something ridiculous. And then 2, when things started to slip in the national championship, Notre Dame had all the momentum, got to a 1-score game. Ryan Day and the Ohio State coaching staff put their money on Will Howard, and he delivered. That last pass, third down. Now, Jeremiah Smith, give the dude credit, got open, but perfect pass right in the breadbasket. And the highest stakes moment of the game. And then Carson Bruner, yeah, like I said, linebacker depth. His last name's Bruner. We knew that pick was happening, or there was a high chance of that pick happening. If we weren't going to pick him there and he fell out of the draft, there's a high chance we were just going to take him as an undrafted rookie free agent. And then Dante Kent, boomer bust cornerback coming out of Central Michigan. It worked for us in the past, taking a kind of player like that. Although, I mean, I don't know if AB was as boomer bust, because you look at Dante Kent and some of his stats. He was first in pass breakups in his time at Central Michigan, I think amongst MAC schools. And then he was also first in highest big plays given up. So really boomer bust game, but 4.3 speed, also punt return guy, electric when he gets the ball in his hands. So why not take a flyer on a dude like that? Not opposed. And, in terms of cornerback depth, guys for the future, Darius Slay, he's up there in age, but, after JPJ, Darius Slay, Brandon Eccles, you got a Corey Trice. I know we brought Pierre back on a 1-year deal, but Dante Kent, I kind of like that. Just as like a high upside play, maybe in a couple years, could be something. What a draft, man. What a draft. Luca Magic 420 says the knock is the arm strength. I don't know, man. Watch him throw the ball. You tell me his arm strength isn't there. Who's saying that? Am I off? If anything, he was overthrowing it at the combine. He was rocking it too much. I don't see arm strength issues with Will Howard when I watch him play. I don't know where the arm strength stuff comes from. Spoonie Love says franchise quarterback is getting drafted in 2026 in front of the fan base, which is why I like the Will Howard pick. We maintain very good flexibility going forward, but we also, I think, have done everything that was needed to also try to win in 2025 and put ourselves in the best spot to win now, which again goes back to how great of a job I think Omar Khan did this offseason. It's an absolute masterclass. That is the exact juxtaposition that I think every team wants. That's the exact contrast every GM and team want in this league. You're built to win now, but you also are set up for the future. That's what we look like on paper. It ain't going to be Omar Khan's fault that we fail. I'll put it to you that way. He's delivered every offseason in terms of getting the right people in here at the right value in the draft, and also picking up the right guys in free agency, where we're not leveraging up our future. We're not signing anyone to bad contracts, but we're also getting guys that are ready to win in the here and now. Patrick Queen on the contract that we gave him last offseason, it was at a value for his market. And then it's not like it's a crippling contract or anything like that going forward. Yeah, he disappointed at times, but who isn't making that sign? That's a good move by Omar Khan, right? Good move by Omar Khan, good move by the front office. How could anyone say that was a bad pickup? Hopefully, with him going into his second year in the defense and the system, he's actually going to get better. Because it's not like he's 30. Patrick Queen's still young. He's like 25, 26. I feel like almost every move Omar Khan has made, objectively good. I can't think of a bad one, really. You could knock the Mike Williams wide receiver trade, but still only giving up a 5th-round pick for him. That's worth the flyer. Us trading Kevin Dotson, that wasn't an Omar Khan thing. I feel like that was more of a Mike Tomlin thing, and Kevin Dotson being in Mike Tomlin's doghouse. But yeah, that's why I'm not opposed to us waiting on quarterback. We ultimately get Will Howard in the 6th, which was crazy value. He has the upside of maybe being your guy down the line. But we maintain the flexibility where we didn't take someone in the 1st round. So 2026, that quarterback class is still in play. Because if we took a guy in the first round, then that means you're attached to them for at least the next 2 or 3 years. And you're not going to be able to potentially reap the benefits of next year's class. Now, as we sit here right now, I think next year's class is a little bit overrated, but the talent is there. Don't get me wrong. The talent's there. It's just a lot of those guys are going to have to develop for 2025. Some of them are going to have to prove more, but the talent is there. And Arch Manning, we don't even know if he's going to be coming out in next year's class. But you could go maybe like 7, 8, 9, 10 deep of quarterbacks in next year's class that might be taken between the first and like third round. And if the Steelers want to wait and see what that looks like, I can't blame them, especially if you already know Aaron Rodgers is going to be here. There's no rush to get a quarterback in here for this season if you already know that they're not going to be playing. No rush. People sleeping on the Steelers, man. I really like what we did. As I said, I got to give credit where credit is due. The vibes were low when the season ended. But I think every step along the way this offseason, the Steelers have hit every checkpoint to get back to where we need to be. At least to go all in for this season, at least to take a chance on 2025. Like this might be a make or break type of year, but we're taking a crack at it. We really am. We're giving effort. We're not just running it back with Russ. We're not just running it back with the same receiving core and maybe taking a receiver in the second or third round and saying that's good enough to be a guy across from Pickens. No, we went out and got DK Metcalf. No, we're about to get Aaron Rodgers. We got Darius Slay, who should be an upgrade over Dante Jackson. We fortified that defensive line. On paper, we look good. Roster looks good. Now, again, granted, our roster has looked halfway decent these last couple years on paper. It comes down to it's literally just going to come down to how are these players going to play? How are the coaches going to coach? And are we going to get a different result? You can't blame Omar Khan for these personnel moves and roster moves that he's made this offseason, though. Cannot blame him. Cannot. And McDermott 10 says Archie Manning is going to be a franchise savior. Not for the Steelers. I'm just going to make the prediction right now. We're not getting Arch Manning ever. Because most likely he's going to be a top 10 pick. Most likely a number 1 pick. Now, because even Arch Manning still has to prove something. We need to see a full season of him in college, but we know what his path's going to be. I feel like he's going to be the truth. I actually do think he's going to be good. And those 3 or 4 games we saw from him at Texas, it was arguable that he was the better quarterback for them last year over Quinn Ewers, that they should have just stuck with Arch Manning. Way more dynamic than Ewers. I think he is going to be good. But the Steelers are never going to be that bad to where we're going to be picking Arch Manning. Never. Even if Rodgers doesn't sign here, we're at least going 9-8 with Mason Rudolph. You could book that. Steelers over under win total for the bet props was at 8.5. I bet the over already. I don't even need to see who we got at quarterback. I don't even need to see the full offseason. I made that bet before the draft. It's Tomlin. It's the Steelers. We're at least doing that. We know our floor. I have confidence in that. The confidence in us competing with these other teams in the AFC, like the Bills, the Ravens, Chiefs, all that stuff. That's the question. But I like the moves we're making. I like the approach that we have. I like that the effort we are giving this offseason to try to get back in that conversation. Because, man, I'm excited again. I really am. Whoa, Howard, chilling behind Aaron Rodgers. Watch out. Jay Brown says solid draft picks this year. Remix 84. I agree. Yeah, I mean, you could tell from my energy and what I've been saying throughout this stream. I agree. Remix 84 says Rodgers was training with Caleb. He's coming. Relax. Was he Caleb Johnson? So not only DK Metcalf, but Caleb Johnson he's been training with. Remix 84 says, great draft. We addressed the biggest concern in the run defense. Yeah, we did. The quarterback buzz was picking up these last few weeks with the Rodgers decision being up in the air and stuff. And rightfully so. Rightfully so. And I wouldn't have been opposed to taking a quarterback in the first round. But honestly, given how everything played out and Shador falling and all these quarterbacks falling and us having another chance to take both Shador and Jalen Milroe in the third round, but also Shador in the fourth and all the other quarterbacks in the fourth round, it's a good thing we didn't take a quarterback in the first. But I wouldn't have blamed the Steelers for taking a quarterback early just because of the mindset. That's the most important position in the game. And if it's going to be Aaron Rodgers this year, it's going to be Mason Rudolph. You're going to have to address the position for the future at some point. So it's not going to be a bad idea to overinvest in it. I wouldn't be opposed to that. Ultimately, we said we don't need to. We good. We good. And we're going to get a Will Howard in the 6th round. We're going to get extreme value in that pick. Dude that's 6'4", 230. We just won a national championship with Ohio State. Tough as nails. Balled out in the playoffs. We're going to get that guy in the 6th. Potentially to be our future. But maintain flexibility where we took a day 3 pick on Will Howard. So if we're in the 2026 offseason and we feel like things didn't work out for us last year and we need to readdress the quarterback position, we can still do that. We could draft a guy in the first round and have them compete with Will Howard. We move on from Aaron Rodgers, but it would be a good scenario if Aaron Rodgers balls out, we go with Rodgers for another year, and Will Howard can develop for 2 seasons behind Rodgers. Rodgers rides off into the sunset, hopefully getting us a Super Bowl or 2, and then Will Howard's ready to take the keys for the next 8, 9, 10 years. I wouldn't mind that. I don't think most of us would. Any other good comments here? Let me see if I got anything left in my notes I wanted to address here. Here's a couple notes I have. I feel like the Steelers had the approach of let's keep it simple. Let's just take good to great players from good to great programs in college football. Not that complicated. We got a dude from Oregon. We got 2 guys from Iowa, Caleb Johnson, Y.A. Black. 2 guys from Ohio State, the leaders on that Ohio State offense and defense, that national championship team, and Jack Sawyer and Will Howard. Carson Bruner from Washington. Now, Dante Kent, like I said, that 7th round pick, you take a flyer on a dude, Central Michigan, small school, why not? But I think the overarching theme was let's just take good players from good programs. Not that hard. Derek Harmon, one of the top defensive linemen in college football, coming out of Oregon. Caleb Johnson, one of the best running backs in college football, led the Big Ten in rushing yards and rushing touchdowns, I think, and all that stuff. Jack Sawyer, leader on the Ohio State defense. Will Howard, leader on the Ohio State offense. Won a national championship. Let's get those guys. Y.A. Black on Iowa, defensive line. Pair him up with his former teammate, Logan Lee. Carson Bruner, we got to do the Steeler connection thing. Dante Kent, boomer bust player. I like it, man. All in now in 2025. Maintain flexibility for next offseason, future offseasons, and building for the future. What more can you ask for? Shout out to Omar Khan. Shout out. But that's it for today's episode of reacting to the Pittsburgh Steelers 2025 draft. Hell of a draft. Again, A+ draft. Omar Khan. I think that's 3 A+ drafts in a row of getting players that we needed at the right value in the right rounds, probably a round or 2 late from where they were supposed to go, and adding to this roster and trying to build this team back to greatness. Love it. I'm out of here. See you guys soon. See you guys here on Bleach Report next Tuesday, 6 p.m. I'm sure we'll have more stuff to react to from the draft. We'll have undrafted free agent signings between now and then. Probably a lot of them are happening right now. And we'll know a bunch of new names being signed up to be Steelers come tomorrow. But I'm out of here. Stay chilling. Enjoy the weekend. Stay safe. Peace.